Namaskar friends, welcome back to video 8 of week 9. In this week we'll talk about cross-linguistic and multilingual complexities in criminal testimonies. When language choice, switching and proficiency shape the justice. In this session we'll talk about how many languages meet in one courtroom. Friends, in this session we'll explore multilingualism shapes criminal testimonies. In India and across the world, many individuals speak multiple languages daily. The linguistic choices during interrogation or courtroom testimony are influenced by memory, comfort, identity, fear, and cultural norms. But legal systems often assume a single consistent language which creates room for misinterpretation. Our goal today is to understand how language switching and proficiency affect credibility, clarity, and justice. There must be a question in your mind, friends, that why do speakers switch languages under stress? To answer to this, friends, understand multilingual speakers often switch languages spontaneously, especially when emotional or cognitively overwhelmed. They may recall traumatic events in their first language, answer formal questions in official language, express emotions in the regional language, and calculate dates or amounts in yet another one. Code switching reflects psychological processing, not evasiveness. Friends, courts sometimes misinterpret switching as confusion or deception, when it is actually a natural multilingual behavior. Now let's understand the language choice as a psychological anchor. I've also told you earlier that language is emotional. The first language often carries deep memory, whereas a second language may provide emotional distance, and a third language might feel safer or more formal. In testimonies, survivors sometimes switch to a native language when describing violence or fear because those memories were formed in that language. Linguists explain to courts that such switches anchor the speaker to the original emotional context, enhancing authenticity rather than undermining it. Let's talk about interpreters influence testimony without realizing it. As we discussed earlier, that translation becomes dangerous when it is not properly. Friends, interpreters play a vital role, but their linguistic decisions can unintentionally distort testimony. They may simplify emotional phrasing, omit hesitation markers, adjust the tone, replace culturally lauded terms, or rephrase to match legal expectations. These small modifications can change how testimony is judged. A linguist must evaluate not only the original speech but also the interpreter's influence. Friends, proficiency mismatches in the cases when the speakers know enough to speak but not enough to defend themselves. Many individuals speak conversational English or Hindi but lack legal proficiency. They may misunderstand questions. They may answer narrowly because they cannot express nuance. They may appear evasive simply because they cannot articulate complex ideas in the chosen language. Friends, courts sometimes assume that partial proficiency equals full proficiency, leading to unfair interpretations. Linguists highlight these mismatches to prevent credibility errors. When it comes to cross-linguistic inference, in the cases when one language's grammar alters another's testimony, when speakers use multiple languages, grammatical structures from one language influence another. These may cause tense mixing, pronoun confusing, word order variations, and unusual idioms. Friends, such features may seem like inconsistencies to monolingual listeners, but in reality, they are normal in multilingual cognition. A linguist explains these structures so courts do not mistake interference for fabrication. Let's understand with one case example about a witness misjudged because of code switching. In an anonymous case, a witness rapidly switched between Marathi, Hindi, and English during testimony. Investigators interpreted the switching as nervous deception. Friends, linguistic analysis showed that each language switch corresponded to different cognitive processes. Memory recall in Marathi, emotional expression in Hindi, and formal explanation in English. Once it is understood, the testimony was seen as consistent and authentic. Let's take an example with reference to interpreter choices altering the perception of guilt. In this case, an interpreter translated a speaker's hesitant phrasing into more direct, assertive language. For example, maybe I saw something translated to he said he saw it. Now, this shift accidentally increased perceived certainty and influenced judicial interpretation. Linguistic review revealed the alteration, leading to a re-evaluation of the testimony. Friends, when it comes to organized crime contexts, multilingual threats and coded phrasings play a vital role. Organized crime networks often use multilingual codes. For example, a threat may begin in a familiar language and switch to another for intimidation, secrecy, or emotional emphasis. Switching languages mid-threat may indicate hierarchy signals, cultural markers, or attempts to evade detection. Friends, linguistic decoding helps investigators uncover meaning across linguistic layers. Code transcripts often flatten multilingual testimonies into a single language. This erases emotional tone, hesitation patterns, idioms, and switching behaviors that reveal psychological truth. A linguist pushes for transcripts that preserve multilingual detail so the court can evaluate testimony accurately. Let's understand how linguists support fair interpretation in multilingual cases. Linguists help courts by explaining the code switching norms, identifying inference effects, evaluating interpreter accuracy, clarifying proficiency limitations, and interpreting emotional or cognitive significance of language choice. Their insights prevent misinterpretation rooted in monolingual bias. One has to believe in ethical considerations respecting linguistic identity. A linguist may respect linguistic identity. Forcing a witness to speak in a non-native language risks distortion. Friends, ethical practice includes advocating for proper interpretation support, warning courts about language-based prejudice, and framing linguistic behavior within cultural and psychological contexts. Friends, one has to believe that in the multilingual world, justice must be multilingual too. Multilingualism enriches communication but complicates legal interpretation. When courts recognize the psychological and cultural realities of multilingual speech, justice becomes more accurate and compassionate. Friends, I am sure that you must have enjoyed this walkthrough. In our next session, we'll explore the interplay between trauma, deception, and multilingual behavior in cross-border criminal investigations, advancing our understanding for forensic psycholinguistics. Until I catch you in the next video, till then, stay tuned to the course. Thank you very much.